Okay. This meeting is being live streamed and it's also being recorded and will be made possible on the district website. Login information can be also found on the district website. The meeting is now called to It is February 16th, 2022, and the time is 6:43 p.m. Our mission is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Les, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And then can you please call roll?
Monica Segura Schwartz,
Here.
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Here.
Shannon Hawes,
Here.
Les Green is here, Zach Dorholt, Al Dahlgren,
Here.
Scott Andreasen.
Here.
Following board members, actually, we have no board members virtually present. The following cabinet members and staff are present at the District Administration Office. Superintendent Willie Jett, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education, Dr. Mike Rivard, Director of Community Engagement and Communications, Tammy DeLand, Director of Equity, Ayan Omar, Executive Director of Learning and Teaching, Lori Posch, Executive Director of Operations, Gary Ganji, Media Technicians, Paul Novak and Gordy Scott. Custodian on site this evening is Steve Hain. The following cabinet members and staff are virtually present. Executive Director of Community Education, Adam Holm. Executive Director of Finance and Business Services, Amy Scalarud. Executive Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations, Tracy Flynn Bowe. Executive Director of Research, Assessment, and Enrollment, Donna Roper. Executive Director of Student Services, Special Education, Carol Potter. Executive Assistant, Jan McGuire. That's everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Next up, I'm looking for approval of tonight's board meeting agenda.
So move.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Zach. Dr. Green, can you please call roll again?
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Scott Andreasen,
Yes.
Zach Dorholt. Yes. Les Green is yes. Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth.
Yes.
Monica Segura Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items that the board adopts routinely without debate. Any single member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, item A, approval of minutes from the January 3rd, 2022, January 5th, 2022, and January 19th, 2022 meeting minutes. Item B, approval of bills and other financial transactions in the grand total amount of $4,391,070.45. Item C, approval of personnel staff changes. Item D, acceptance of grant awards and donations. Item E, call for bids, Talahi HVAC project. Item F, call for bids, Catherine Johnson Education Center site improvements. Item G, call for bids, Clearview site improvements. Item H, Catherine Johnson Education Center change orders totaling $12,888.62. And item A, joint purchasing contract award, Talahi HVAC equipment. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, looking for approval of tonight's consent agenda as read.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Scott and a second by Natalie. Les, can you please call roll again?
Excuse me. Scott Andreasen,
Yes.
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Zach Dorholt. Yes. Les Green is yes. Shannon Hawes,
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Yes.
Monica Segura Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to informational items. First up tonight is Lincoln Elementary School Talahi Community School presentation presented tonight by Principals Nicole Hansen and Heather Ebnett. Welcome, glad to have you.
Good evening, Superintendent Jett, Chair Hawes, school board members, and cabinet. We are honored to be here with you tonight and share some highlights and updates from Talahi and Lincoln Elementary Schools. My name is Nikki Hansen.
And I'm Heather Ebnett, and we are blessed with the opportunity to serve as principals of these two great schools and amazing community.
Tonight, we are eager to share with you some of the stories and faces that make Talahi and Lincoln an incredible place for learning and teaching, and how together we serve this great community.
To start this evening, we wanted you to get a glimpse of our community from a few of our staff members' perspectives as they reflect on what together means to our Talahi and Lincoln school communities. We hope you enjoy.
Well, I'm a special ed teacher, so I had kids in Jody's room.
Yeah, I mean, I've taught kindergarten the whole 15 years I've been here and got hooked up with Raph and Buell. We just really, I think we are a good team. We're a good fit.
The piece with Jody is she's very inclusive with kids, and especially kids that have difficulties. She's like down for all of it. Like, who can I have in my class? Give them all to me. We fight over Jody. Our team does. We do. We're like, who's gonna get Nyson? That's me. I want Nyson.
I feel the same. You know, she wants what's best for all of her kids. And when she comes in the morning to check on her crew, it's not just her crew.
No.
It's everybody in here gets a greeting and gets a hello and you're going to have a great day. And that's kind of why I was like, yes, I want to work with her.
Both of us are very much about all of Talahi kids are our kids.
Yep.
All of our kids are really important to us. That's the piece of Talahi. Really, they come to school just to be loved. And that's what we want to do for them.
You know, this is where I started and this is where I'm going to retire. Everything about Talahi is inspiring. You know, it's so diverse, so inclusive, so welcoming. I mean, people come here, you know, guest teachers.
Yep.
You know, I've been in a lot of places, and this is the most welcoming school.
It's the moment in the morning when I had a horrible bus ride, and Miss Nyson comes up to me and says, "Hi, sweetie, I'm glad you're here."
Yep.
That's the moment that does it for
The
kids.
invitation. They have these great goals that they want to accomplish and what they want to do when they grow up, and just telling them, like, you can do these things, you know?
The academics will always come, but unless you build that relationship, unless they feel safe that I'm going to fail and it's okay because my teacher's going to say, "You're okay, honey, let's try again." That's the biggest piece, is that they feel safe within your space. I mean, especially for my kiddos have major trying to do anything. It's just I'm having a hard time and I don't know how to manage my emotions. And so we work through that, and then it's like, let's go back and join our class. And Jody's always like, "Come back in, let's do this. I'm so glad you're back." You know,
Yeah.
it's that moment of love. It's always about love.
I became a custodian because my wife is currently in the district as well, and she kind of recommended I come and work for the district after I had a spinal injury years ago. So I always had fun volunteering in her class with the kids and going on field trips and stuff. When I'm in the hallways, I definitely enjoy being somebody that they know that they can come to if they need help. In the hall, upset, you know, I can kind of say something funny to them and try to redirect them. When I think of the word inspire with Lincoln, I think about all of the staff, how we all work together, including myself. You know, I might not be as hands-on with the kids, but I am there for when they do need help. and I watch the rest of the staff all work together to make sure all the kids are included and their needs are taken care of. I had a kid who broke his headphones, and his headphones are very expensive, and he was sad, and I could tell this kid was on the verge of tears, and all it took was me. I got some glue and some tape, and I was able to fix his headphones up for him. And then he put them on, and he started doing a dance in the middle of the cafeteria, and all of his friends were laughing, and they were all having a great time, and he would always say hi to me after that. So stuff like that is really good, and makes me happy. I'm able to help out.
So I graduated from Apollo in 2017. Eagles. When I was a kid, I really liked teaching my little siblings. When I went to college, I was actually going to go for architecture, but then I decided. I worked at Kid Stop for 3 years and realized I really liked it. And I'm here. I feel like my class community as a whole, we like to have a good time. We have a lot of energy in our room, lots of kids, lots of moving. My whole team is amazing. Probably the best people I've ever worked with anywhere. Especially like the first few months too, it's like everybody comes and pops in. They're like, what do you need? How are you doing? What do you need more help with? Oh, my admin. I love my admin. They understand what you're going through. They understand that you need to take care of yourself and fill your own bucket first before you can fill the buckets of your children. I feel like I inspire a lot of my students to be like, oh, it doesn't matter what background you have, like you can be inspired by good role models and you can always improve yourself. I feel inspired by all the teachers. They're amazing. Like I can't believe how many amazing teachers there are here and how much they actually care for their kids. They all seem to have these lifelong relationships with their kids, so I'm waiting for my second year. And here we come, bringing the love. I don't think I want to ever leave.
742 together.
742 together.
742 together.
We thought we would stick with the Together theme this evening as we take you through some of the highlights of our community using a Together acrostic poem. T is for two schools. Talahi and Lincoln have very similar demographics. We are very proud of our cultural and racially diverse student population and feel like it is one of our greatest strengths.
Our buildings have a combined percentage of 83% free and reduced lunch population. 34% of our student body is served with English language services, and 20% of our school population receives special education services.
O is for one community, creating continuity with our instructional programming, establishing trusting relationships, and the alignment of our operational practices are all vital components to our two schools, one community approach. One example of creating continuity with our instructional programming is the implementation of our Sande Essentials curriculum. For the past 2 years, Talahi first and second grade students have engaged in this phonics-based reading program, and this last year we were ecstatic to have the opportunity to continue programming for our current Lincoln third graders. The explicit instruction and consistent routine of this program has helped develop strong literacy skills for our scholars. At TLC, we now have Sande Essentials programming in kindergarten through third grade with plans of implementation in fourth grade next school year. Talahi and Lincoln partner to create opportunities for families to engage in their student school community. This fall, we held a TLC Fall Festival where over 500 of our students and families gathered to participate in learning activities and fall fun. This spring, we plan to hold a family picnic to celebrate the growth and success of the school year and engage parents around summer learning possibilities. Together, we gather.
G is for growth. At Talahi and Lincoln, we believe all students should achieve at least a year's worth of growth during the school year and work to accelerate student achievement for scholars. We both have detailed school improvement plans and collaboratively set goals with our teachers to monitor and implement best practice strategies. We would like to take an opportunity to share some of these goals with you tonight.
At Talahi this year, our school improvement plan is built around frequent review of street level data. Each month, we analyze growth and progress in the areas of literacy, math, and social emotional learning. In literacy, we have a focus of implementation around Sande Essentials programming and student progress in our Lexia Core 5 learning resource. In math, we are working to create hands-on learning opportunities with a focus in utilizing the CRA math strategy. We have lofty overarching goals of striving to increase proficiency on our STAR benchmark assessments by 20% in literacy and 15% in math from fall to spring assessments.
At Lincoln this year, our school improvement plan is built around increasing growth in both literacy and math, while creating an inclusive environment where all students and families feel welcomed. We are most proud that every new family to Lincoln has participated in a welcome meeting. We have 100% participation so far this year. We continue to review our math and literacy data at the leadership level and use our data during our weekly collaborative planning meetings. Another growth highlight is our increasing enrollment. You can see our primary grade level enrollment continues to increase, and we are eager to serve our growing community. Together, we grow.
E is for excitement. Talahi and Lincoln both have robust PBIS programming that establish clear school-wide expectations. We utilize positive reinforcement opportunities for individual students, classrooms, and whole school recognition. Our students are eager to meet and exceed expectations as they develop their leadership skills. Another area of excitement in our community is our STEM programming. Students at TLC engage in 21st century learning with coding, robotics, engineering, and applying mathematics in the world around them. Enrichment time for Lincoln is focused on math, social emotional learning, and technology. Students are participating in this programming rotation one time per week. At Talahi, students have a monthly opportunity to engage in Genius Fridays and focus on school-wide implementation of social emotional learning strategies. Together, we make learning exciting.
T is for team. We believe in the motto that together, everyone achieves more. Our school communities work collaboratively to provide access and opportunity to all students. A goal we have is to establish a working site council that includes parents from our two schools. We feel this will be our next step in engaging a diverse group of stakeholders to level up our achievement. Together, we are a team.
H is for high potential. At Lincoln, students are able to access young scholars and high achievement programming to help them succeed at their highest standards. At TLC, we always try and build off of student strengths and differentiate to meet students' needs while establishing confidence in their individual abilities. Together, we help students reach their highest potential.
E is for engagement. At TLC, we start our day together as a whole community through our morning announcements and morning mindfulness. This helps to establish a calm and productive start to our learning day. Lexia has been an engaging reading tool for our Talahi and Lincoln communities. Students utilize this reading program to master reading strategies and push themselves as individuals to past levels. At Talahi, in the beginning of the year, there were 62 students who tested into access grade level material, and the rest were working below grade level. Now, there are 217 students accessing grade level content and 36 students who are accessing material above their grade level. Lincoln established Lexia lunches in November, and students who earn the most Lexia units each week earn lunch with the principals to celebrate their achievement. Student success has soared since implementing these engaging celebrations. Our learners have also engaged utilizing our online platform, Seesaw. This platform has allowed students and families to connect and excel in learning beyond the walls of the classroom. Together, we are engaged.
James Comer stated it best when he said, "No significant learning happens without a significant relationship." At TLC, we believe strongly in establishing trusting relationships with our students and families. This is our first focus as we work to best serve our scholars. Together, we create strong relationships.
We love our Talahi and Lincoln community and are ecstatic with the positive feedback and success so far with our reimagining mission. We look forward to seeing continued success and progress in the years to come. Together, we find success.
Thank you for letting us share with you tonight. We appreciate your continued support and are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Scott?
I see that you've undergone major growth. And how are you accommodating almost a third more students than you had before?
Well, I can speak to that at Talahi because we have added sections, and so we continue to monitor class size numbers. And the district has been very great with supporting us with more teachers, and we've been able to support kids with coming in where they're at and meeting their needs as learners. And so, along with district supports, we've been able to put in programming supports that help to meet the needs of our students.
And I would echo that. I think the district has been fabulous in providing, as class sizes have grown, providing additional supports at Lincoln as well.
You have the physical space for it.
Currently, yes.
At Lincoln too?
We are accommodating, yes. We could always use more space, but we are making it work.
Okay, from the past knowledge, I've learned that there's been a lot of turnover at your schools. What is our turnover rate?
I can tell you I just completed Staff Hope and Dreams conferences, which is something that we do every year just to sit down with staff and learn how they see themselves best serving students in the upcoming year. And we have very minimal staff turnover for the 4th year in a row at Talahi. So we are ecstatic to be able to go deeper with our staff and best serve our kids.
Well, I was particularly concerned about student turnover rate.
Sure.
I've heard that's as high as 50%.
You know, we have a transitional population, but we do have stability as well. And so we watch those numbers closely and best support our families with all the supports that we have to give them.
Do you have a PTA there?
We do. We actually have a joint PTA.
Okay, how often do they meet?
They meet once a month. They did have a couple months where they did not meet. They have been virtual so far this school year.
Well, they've been virtual?
Correct.
Will you be doing it in person?
That is something that we will discuss at our next meeting.
Okay. You mentioned something called a Sande Program. Please tell me what that's about.
Sure. Sande is a phonics-based core program, and so it's done in whole group. It's really focused on teaching the foundational skills of phonics in a very explicit way. And so our staff has found a lot of success with it because of the routines, and our students, because of the predictability, have really been able to grow. At Talahi, we have been extremely proud of our fall to winter growth on our STAR scores, and so as we triangulate that data, we're seeing some of those explicit programs really do some beneficial work for our kids.
Okay, yeah, I did notice there's quite a bit of growth on the STAR testing. What's a CRA main math strategy?
That is concrete, representational, and abstract. So it's a initiative through the district that is working with kids on getting manipulatives in students' hands and doing the concrete first, and then they move to representational and then abstract. So it's a way to teach math where kids get that concrete first so they can see it and feel it, and then move to the different levels from there.
Now, as the kids get older, is that what you mean by moving to the different levels, being more?
Not necessarily. It could be within the same grade level. It just means when they grasp the concept in the concrete, they can move to the representational and then the abstract. But it's based on the concept.
Can you give me an example?
Oh, let me think. Well, right now we're working on fractions. What? Oh, there we go. Go ahead, Lori.
At the next board meeting, Marcy, our math coordinator, will be having you participate in CRA. So you'll get a lot more.
There we go.
Well, thank you very much, Lori. Okay, well, that takes care of that one. How about Lexia? What's Lexia?
So Lexia is an app have that is based around the 5 core concepts of reading. And so the beauty of Lexia and Sande is they get that direct instruction from the teacher, and then they get that application and engaging tool that kids love. And so Lexia has 21 different levels that range from pre-K all the way up to 5th grade. Students are able to move up through those levels at their own pace. So right now when you saw, and that number is actually 41 today, we have 41 as Talahi students who are now accessing above grade level content. And so they're getting exposed to standards that they would have otherwise not had in school. And so it's a great opportunity to get to extend them further, and it's a great application to have them practice to get mastery of reading concepts.
Okay. I think I've pretty well covered it. Who's next?
Natalie?
I always look forward to you guys presenting. You're so kind with your voices and so elementary, which is a good thing. All right, so I loved in that video when the teacher said, students just want to know that if I fail, it's okay. I mean, that's beautiful. So that made my day. Nikki, you said something about street level data. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so as a district leadership team, we actually launched our year with this. And it was really that concept of your satellite data is like your MCA test. You get it once a year. It's really that overall picture. Your street data is going to be more your day-to-day that informs your instruction. So every week at Talahi, I update a spreadsheet and we have Lexia races, right? But that literacy data informs the teachers. What am I teaching in my small group? What do I need to go back over as a core concept in whole group because some kids didn't understand it? And so street level data is that data that we use to drive our instruction that we know is going to impact our bigger goals.
Okay, so street level data, and then what did you call MCA?
Would be satellite.
Satellite, okay. And we talk about that a lot because we see that growth in the street level data, so that's wonderful. I think I asked this last time you were here too, but being first on the board was when when I was first on the board is when we did the banding of the 2 schools and we're asking the community about it. So how do you feel the community, or how does the community feel different now that you're a couple of years into that banding with the 2 schools?
I think it's amazing. I love, and this is my first year at Lincoln, so I can't judge from prior years how it felt prior, but I know that this year it feels amazing to be able to focus on that age group of students and to gear our PD and to gear our data discussions around that age and those grade levels. So I think it's also just the kids really love being with that many kids their own age. We have lots of great things going on within each grade level as well. So I think that is a really big benefit to what we created.
Yeah, beautiful. And I loved that creation. It was right there with the community. It was beautiful. I just want to shout out your Lexia data. What in the world? That's so amazing. So 50% of the kids who were below grade level at the beginning of this year are now at or above?
Yeah, and we really started because, you go slow to go fast, and we work on
Yeah.
relationships first. And so that data really went from beginning of October to a couple weeks ago when we were putting the presentation together. But kids are super motivated and making great gains.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. The one thing from the data packet that I wanted to ask about was the attendance percentage. So I see that it was 96.2% in 2021, and this year it seems to have dropped a bit to 79.1%. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can for Talahi's perspective. We have been working super hard to make personal connections and reach out to families, but COVID has really been difficult. With littles, we have a lot of sniffles and a lot of multiple symptoms, and so we have had a lot of our students out with illness, but we are still reaching out as a team, and we meet every Wednesday to talk about who's going to reach out, make personal connections to get kids back and make sure that they know when they can come back and get back to learning.
And I would echo that. It's very similar at Lincoln, a lot of ORL. So they are learning, maybe just not at Lincoln, and just lots of, I think, family concerns around COVID and family members having a positive diagnosis and what does that mean for students. And we also have a team of SEL, social emotional learning team that supports phone calls and reaching out to families, and our Nurse Nurse Kevin is incredible as well. He does a phenomenal job reaching out to our families. So we're going to keep trying to encourage that great attendance.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if it was COVID related. It sounds like it was. All right. Thanks, ladies, for a great presentation.
Monica?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. Kudos to Tommy that I figured had something to do with that video and all those hearts and stuff that were coming in the video. That love them. What's the name of the teacher that was talking that had that grain energy? The one from St. Clair State that wasn't decided.
Tayandra Walker.
Andra.
Tayandra,
All right.
yep.
Yeah, kudos to her. Really, really, really good. And she has that energy for the video. I cannot imagine her with the kids. So that's
amazing.
great. What I was going to say, I also want to say kudos to Donna. I really love the data that you put together for these schools and all the colors and stuff. So that data deck, really clear. I did have a question about, you did get into this experiment and then we got COVID. So it's kind of hard to really assess how it has to work or not. What can you tell me about that? How are we moving forward with this, despite of the pandemic, or what things do you see?
I can tell you that from being a part of that beginning process, one of the things that we were really looking for was kind of that 5 years, right? Give us time to see if it's going to work. Give us time to connect with the communities. From the first day that we talked about this reimagining mission to now, our climate and culture of our school is amazing. Our teachers are excited to be there, being able to narrow our lens on developmental designs and create instructional programming along with schedules that best meet kids' needs has been a wonderful opportunity. And so as I look at this year's growth data through a pandemic academically, I see that it's working. And so I am ecstatic and can't wait for the day that we get that consistency within our walls and that time from you all and from our community to continue in this model to show the great growth that it has.
I think that that's it for now.
Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Jett?
Good evening. And so when I look at these two young ladies sitting there, words that come to my mind, and so they've heard some of this, they know how I feel. But when I look at the two of them and I listen to them present, gifted, both of them, I personally, and I believe everybody in the Talahi, Lincoln, you guys said TLC, in that community, they should feel fortunate. I also know that they feel blessed and they feel grateful for the work that you guys are doing at those two sites. The 2 words or the 3 words or maybe the 4 words that in the very beginning, and they heard this when they ran this past us, diverse, inclusive, welcoming, together, of course. And there was somebody in that video, Ms. Walker, I believe, that said she loves their admin. From a district perspective, I can tell you point blank, we love the admin in the building. I remember 9 years ago when I first was coming to the district, and I remember my van ride to that school or to those sites, and the conversation and the concerns about those 2 sites. And what I witness now, and you saw the data, and you get the vibe, and you're hearing the staff, the non-turnover ratio, and you're hearing transient population, but yet at the same token, everybody's feeling welcomed, and they're feeling like this is, the term I want to use is the place to be. And that credit and a testament, yes, there's a whole lot of people working on that, and there's community partnerships and everything going on there, but it starts from those 2 individuals sitting in front of us presenting this evening. So I just want to say thank you for all that you do, and those young people are completely fortunate to have you leading them down this path. That's it.
Thank you both. Next up, we have the Local Education and Activities Foundation LEAF report presented by LEAF President Bruce Mose and Executive Director Bruce Henches. Welcome.
Welcome back, Bruce and Bruce. What's up with you, Bruce? I'm sorry, Henches. What's up with the leg?
Broken ankle.
Oh my God.
Do I explain football again? Yeah. I wish
Uh-huh.
I had a good story to tell you about my broken ankle, but it's
Not the eyes.
Bruce grew up in a family of a lot of boys. And he played high school football and he played college football. Never had a broken bone, never had a soft tissue injury or anything of that sort. And all of a sudden, here he is.
7 boys, 3 girls in our family, and no broken bones until me 3 weeks ago. Anyway, Madam Chair and board members, Superintendent Jett, incoming Superintendent Putnam, and administrative staff. Oh, need to have a little mic going here? Yep. Okay. Thank you for allowing Bruce Mose and myself to make our annual LEAF report to you this evening. We were a little concerned that the board wouldn't want to see us back again, but we feel very welcome, and it's certainly great to see everybody again. We do think it's important that the board be appraised of what the Education Foundation has been up to for the last 12 months as we continue to work with the administration and staff in support of education in District 742. All of you have in front of you our annual report, which is hot off the press. In fact, I picked it up from the printer on the way over here this evening, so you are the first ones to have that in your hand, and it's yours to keep, and it gives you a summary of the 21 year for LEAF. We feel that there is a close connection between LEAF and the district administration and the staff, and we greatly appreciate that. While LEAF is an independent 501c3, we don't do anything on our own. Everything that we do is in support of and in conjunction with district educational efforts. Communication between LEAF and the 742 administration and staff has been excellent, and we think it's one of the main reasons why we have continued to grow organizationally and to grow our impact educationally. LEAF has a 24-member board of directors representing the entire District 742 community. Most of our work is done through committees. However, today we aren't here to talk about how we function, but more about what we have done in the past year. So we'll get started. Bruce Mose is our current president. He and I will share this presentation, and we haven't practiced it a lot, but hopefully we'll be able to take you through it quickly and bring you up to date with what's going on with LEAF. As you notice on the cover of the annual report, same as the first slide in our presentation here, we have a picture of Pam Stang's kindergarten classroom at Westwood Elementary. And we think the focus of our annual report this year is, why do we do what we're doing? And as you look at that classroom, it becomes very clear why we all are doing what we are doing to try to support the future of this community. Before I get into our annual report, I want to just say a couple words about Phil Welter. Most of you on the board know at least of Phil. Phil was a board member and chair of the school board back in the late 1980s and early 90s. In 1992, Bill Ritchie, a coach at Tech, and myself represented the Coaches Association and came to the board and said, you know what, you're making a lot of cuts in the activities program. What can we do to save activities? Phil said, let's get together and study that and figure it out. And he took a very active leadership role in that. And the result was that in 1993, we began the LEAF Foundation. Initially, just as a support for the student activities program, but Phil formed an advisory committee and then a steering committee, and then in 93, the organization was born. And Phil served as our executive director until 2008, when a stroke prevented him from continuing. And I've served in that role since then. But Phil had a big impact on the St. Cloud community educationally, also in terms of the fine arts, and he's certainly someone that will be missed. Phil passed away in late January, unfortunately after our annual report had gone to print, and so we weren't able to highlight him in the annual report, but we certainly will in the future. Moving on, and to our mission.
Our mission, as you can see in the print and on the screen here, is that the District 742 LEAF organization purpose is to secure and channel private funds to support and enhance excellence and opportunity in the school district educational programs. And we want to be certain that we broaden that educational program understanding to mention that this includes all academic activities, arts and athletic programs, and student support services. Our scope of assistance has increased very much from those very early days, the foundation that was set in those days. But this is our mission, and I, for one, when I look at missions, in this district, I always find echoes between the missions of all organizations that are working with students and in the school district. So this echoes the school district's mission and school missions, et cetera. Some of the highlights that we'd just like to present to you briefly, you can see those on the screen. LEAF, we're very proud that LEAF has surpassed the 2.4 million mark in total grants since 1996. $2.4 million this organization has given back into this school district in the form of grants. $273,500 plus in grants during this past year, 2021. A very important element of our organization is the Adopt a Classroom project. And as you can see here that we've set new records there, raised and money raised and classrooms adopted. Since 2011, when the Adopt a Classroom project came into being, almost $250,000 have been raised, and over 900 classrooms have been adopted in our school district. The Pack Cat and the Pack Rat, parents and kids computing aloud together and parents and kids reading aloud together, they are continuing to grow and touch the lives of our students and our parents in the very important elements of reading and mathematics. Teaching and learning is enhanced by these two programs. You can also see then the grants that we've made to support the expansion of the preschool program. The Learning Renaissance fundraiser brings in money. Summertime Pack Rat, Pack Cat bus rolls around our neighborhoods in the summer and presents books, math books and reading books to our students that might not have access to those resources. And a $20,000 grant helps district market the activities, opportunities available to our students. So we're very proud of those highlights. Of course, there's so many more things we do.
Financially, regarding the LEAF Fund, of course, we started in '93, as I said, as an activities foundation. We started with a $100,000 loan, by the way, from the school board at the time. That was paid back in total, plus $2,400,000, et cetera. But as of January 15th of this year, the activities fund within the LEAF Foundation is $1,449,000. The great thing about, as the fund grows, so does the amount that we're able to grant. And we give 5% of our total funds annually through 2 grant cycles. And that means in the 22-23 school year, we'll be able to grant just about $75,000 in support of student activities in District 742. The academic fund started in 2009 with a $100 check from somebody, but it has grown to $710,000 as of last month. And with 5% of that will allow us to give over $35,000 in support of academic programs in the school district during the next school year. So our total LEAF endowment funds right now are $2,159,987. The great thing, and the thing that maybe I'm most proud of, is that while we are able to give 5% of those total endowed funds as grants, Those endowed funds only make up about a third, historically, of the grants that we have been able to give to District 742. This graph kind of shows the grants for 2021, and a total of 273,000. The grants above the line are the endowed fund grants that we are able to give. But then you see the other programs that we have that are either events or individual fundraising that we do in order to support a particular program, whether it's Pack Rat, Pack Cat, the Adopted Classroom, Homeless Student Services, Activities Participation Fund, and a couple of scholarship funds that we do host. This graph shows the total of $2,417,000 that has been granted. And again, the grants above the line are from the endowed fund, and those below the line are from other events and projects and fundraising that we have done. I highlighted the Pack Rat program. We have given closing in $200,000 to the Pack Rat program since we began financially supporting it about 2010. And then the Homeless Student Services Fund, which we began supporting in 2015, and since that time have been able to grant over $160,000 in support of kids who are temporarily homeless and provide crisis shelter, food, clothing, and miscellaneous supports. We have many hundreds of donors annually to LEAF that are so key to our continued growth. But we do have a few that we identify as our major donors for 2021 who have kind of gone above and beyond and have made a major impact on LEAF's growth. And so included in that group, you'll see Peggy Carlson and Chuck Nielsen. You've all met Peggy in the past. She is our grants administrator also and a member of our board. The Chinese Immersion Program, Al Dahlgren, and Once Upon a Child. And I think this is an opportunity for us to publicly thank Al for the tremendous support that he's given LEAF over the years. Paul and Joanne Dorscher, again, a couple who have just supported education in this community for many, many years. Don and Sue Helgeson, John McDowell, and McDowell Company, Louise Mugley, the St. Cloud, we received a block grant from the city of St. Cloud. That was the only grant we got, outside grant we got last year. The previous year we had quite a few, and we've got several kind of on the cusp here for this year, but we did receive that in support of our homeless program. And then the J.A. Wedham Foundation, Jay Ports, has been a great supporter of education in District 742, particularly the activities program through LEAF. One of the unique ways that people can make a lasting contribution through LEAF is to set up a legacy fund. And for LEAF, a legacy fund is a gift of $25,000 or more given over up to 5 years, at which time the donor can say, I want the 5% grant from that donation to go to a particular cause. Currently, we have 12 legacy funds. Within about another week or two, we will have 14. And those legacy funds are listed here. George and Shirley Torre, last year, our annual report was pretty much about George and Shirley and the impact that they've had. But you see there are several families, the Carrier family, the Faber family. One of the more interesting ones is the Retired Educators Fund. And I am very proud as a retired educator myself of District 742 that we appeal to those who we know are retired educators and ask them to donate to LEAF. And we began this in 2011. And as of right now, we're actually over $80,000 that has been given by retired educators in support of ongoing education in District 742, which will allow us this year to make over $4,000 in grants that we otherwise would not have been able to make. So even in retirement, our educators continue to support the work being done by you and educators who are still in our classrooms. Bruce?
Bruce mentioned briefly before the Homeless Student Services Fund. I think this descriptor at the top is just very impactful when it says homework is hard, but imagine how hard it is without a home. That's quite a sobering statement to think about. The purpose of the Homeless Student Services Fund is to provide support for students and families experiencing homelessness and to encourage their academic success. And you can see here that our funds go in support of the crisis shelter, clothing, food, transportation, gas, and other miscellaneous needs. Our total homeless fund grants are $160,000, almost $161,000. And we are constantly reminded that every morning, a large number of kids, I've heard in the past, a number in the neighborhood of 300 kids come to school, and we don't know where they were the night before. And there's an adage that says in education that when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. And students that don't have safe places the night before come to school, and they may be in the classroom, and the teacher may be there with an excellently produced lesson plan, and many of our students are present and ready, and the teacher appears for them. But for others of our students, the teacher is not in appearance to them because they are not ready. And so we want all of our students to be ready every day of the week, no matter what their circumstances are.
I would just want to emphasize Rebecca Gronwald and Jen Locke with the District Transitional Services Program are vital to the success of this effort. They are the ones who identify families, or families identify to them, and then they make the requests through a process that we have set up for either crisis shelter at a hotel, help with paying rent, clothing, food, whatever the needs are, and we are able to provide those grants. I mentioned we have within the next couple of weeks 2 new funds. One will be a scholarship fund in the memory of Mary and Edmund Schnettler. The other one is a fund in support of music for District 742. We're referring to it as our Music Matters Legacy Fund. We believe that music and fine arts are vital to the support of the curriculum in District 742. This fund will provide ongoing support to the district-wide music program. Unfortunately, the basis of the fund is being set up with funds remaining from the breakup of the all-city marching band, which unfortunately has dissolved. And as part of that dissolution, they had to disperse the funds they had remaining among 501c3s. And LEAF was one of the programs that they decided to support. We anticipate a pretty healthy fund that will allow us to start making grants in the next school year in support of music. We are also in discussions for additional fundraising ideas that LEAF can undertake to build that fund and to help support a quality music program, which we know is vital to any school district and to many kids.
LEAF Photo Contest is a very unique idea, the Best of 742 Photo Contest. This is open to District 742 students, parents, staff, and residents. We ask people to send us digital pictures that best represent the district, and these can be pictures highlighting academics, activities, arts, athletics, and student support services. There are 3 pictures on here that I'd like to just narrate very briefly. At the top is the 2021 award winner, and that's titled Raise Your Hand. Ryan Unger from our district submitted that picture, and the $500 prize for that he gave back to the photo programs at Tech and Apollo, the student photography programs. The one in the middle is titled Stronger Together. That was our 2020 winner. Stronger Together fits the theme very nicely this evening of the presentation made by our Lincoln and Talahi administrators and staff. And then the bottom one is titled The Final Hug. That was our award winner in 2019. This is one of our teachers and a student at the end of the year, saying goodbye and reaffirming the teaching, learning, friendship, professional friendship that they had during the school year. And so on our website, the rules are listed, and we hope that we'll continue to get so many pictures as we do every year.
We would emphasize the contest is open to students, but parents also, staff members, even school board members can enter if you have a great picture of something that shows the best of 742, which we like to get out and project to the community. We are on hold again regarding the Night of the Stars. Last year was to be the 20th annual Night of the Stars, and obviously COVID prevented that. And the impact of COVID and things are preventing us from hosting it again this year. We are hoping that we'll be able to do that again next year. Next month, our Monday, the 28th of February, is our annual LEAF meeting, report to the community, and awards celebration. I hope you've all received your invitation. You should have by now. And we hope that you can attend. It'll be via Zoom again, of course. One of the things that we do is we celebrate people who have gone above and beyond in impacting the mission of LEAF and the mission of District 742 in providing a quality education. And so we will be giving the awards that you see here. We give a Phil Welter Volunteer Service Award, which will be going to Tim Beck, who's our treasurer, has been since 2014. He's an accountant for Clifton Larson Allen and has donated his time for us. Shirley Torre Charitable Giving Award is broken into two, one for individuals and one for businesses. Peggy Carlson and Chuck Nielsen will receive that, as will two couples and one business that have made a donation to adopt a classroom every year since we started it in 2011. Mike and Jana LaFontaine, Janet and Mike Reagan, and then Westview Dentistry and Dr. Robert Gardetto. Charitable giving, we will acknowledge and recognize Al's generosity towards LEAF. Instructional excellence will go to Dr. Lori Putnam for all that she has been for District 742, and to the District 742 bus drivers and transportation staff. We realize that it takes a team to educate children, and that bus drivers are usually the first person kids see in the morning and the last ones they see at the end of the day, and they play an important role. And particularly during these difficult times, we think the role of the bus drivers has been one that has been challenging, and we want to recognize them and the transportation staff. And then finally, our Lifetime Service Award to Bob Fay, longtime LEAF board member, and since retiring from the LEAF board, has continued to work on our grants committee, facilitates it along with Peggy Carlson, and has just contributed a great deal. Speaking of Peggy, just a comment about grants, a reminder to any administrators that are watching, our grant applications for spring cycle are due by February 23rd. Please make sure that they are in. Peggy runs a very tight ship. We do not accept them on February 24th. So have them in. It's all online, computerized, but it needs to be done on time. And we'll actually be beginning our spring, or rather our fall grant cycle for both activities and academics on May 1st. We'll begin taking applications for those for next year. Bruce, some last words.
Well, as one who's privileged here to serve as president of the LEAF Organization Board of Directors, and I'm pleasantly tasked then this evening to make some closing remarks. And I'd like to reflect upon why does LEAF do what it does, and answering that question, or reflecting on that question by considering why do teachers teach and why do donors donate. LEAF does what it does because our teachers and our donors recognize that the children of District 742 are all our children. And educators, donors, and the LEAF organization realizes that as a community, state, and nation, we'll profit by our children or we'll pay for our children, depending upon what we invest in our children. Those investments are investments of time, talent, and treasure. Those are three words whose spelling starts with T, T rhymes with P, and P stands for promise. It's the promise of opportunity that was made for all of us when we were children. And we make that promise of opportunity to all our children today. The children in the classroom at Westwood Elementary School that are featured on the front page of this report, it's not only for them, but for the children in all the classrooms and all the teaching learning sites within 15 different schools in District 742. Instructional staff, operational staff, governance boards, and community donors do it for the kids who will someday be the decision makers and the opinion shapers of our communities, our states, and the nation. And furthermore, LEAF does what it does because our teachers and our donors strongly believe that supporting all of our children is for the infinite good of our communities and our society. No calling is more demanding than the education and the caring and the guiding of our children. We say that no calling is more selfless than giving our time and donating our resources in order to assist and support our children. And no calling is more central to the welfare and vitality of our community and to our democracy than to educate, nurture, and protect our children. Secondly, LEAF does what it does because our teachers and our donors realize that their contributions are of considerable social significance. They're a privilege of great value and importance, and they are a noble and honorable effort of deep meaning and satisfaction. So throughout this year's annual report, you'll see specific quotes from teachers regarding why they teach and specific quotes from donors regarding why they donate. But LEAF does what it does in one other way. In contrast to the division and separation which currently permeates much of our society, LEAF is steadfast in its efforts to work for the common good. And the common good, which is at the heart of the vision, mission, and strategic outcomes of LEAF, is the educational, social, and emotional welfare of all our children in District 742. LEAF does what it does for District 742 and the multiple communities it serves by helping others believe in and hold firm to the ideal that people of goodwill will find common interests in common ground and come together for the common good. And that just makes common sense. Thank you.
Are there any questions on anything that we've presented tonight, or?
Scott?
You mentioned that the municipal marching band has disbanded. Are they passing on any of their instruments?
Any of their students?
Instruments.
Oh, well, I'm not sure what they're doing with the instruments. No, I actually don't know that. My assumption is they would go to the schools, but I'm not. I've only dealt with them regarding the donation to set up a legacy fund.
I suppose a lot of them are personal instruments
Could be.
anyway.
It could be too.
Okay.
Those of us who have been around long enough remember Friday nights with the marching band from Tech or Apollo marching over to the field under the lights. And unfortunately, during those cuts of the 80s and early 90s, we lost the marching band. And so it was picked up by groups throughout the city, and we had a St. Cloud marching band that included kids from around the area ultimately, but they're just not able to survive on their own. And so unfortunately, it has to end.
Is Pack Rat and Pack Cat considered an academic donation then, or is it an activities donation?
If somebody makes a donation to Pack Rat or Pack Cat, it goes directly to that program. If they donate it to academics, it goes into the academic fund, and then grants are made from that academic fund, which may ultimately support Pack Rat or Pack Cat, but they would not. So we make sure that we follow the directive of the donor in making sure their funds support the program that they want supported. Could I just make one other thing? It's a little bit of maybe bragging on our part. Our executive committee kind of wanted me to say this, but we have an endowed fund of about $2.2 million. I think that it's the largest endowed fund, educational endowed fund by an education foundation in Minnesota that is in support of educational programming rather than scholarships. I've done some checking and I do not find any with a larger endowment dedicated to programs. There are some that are larger for scholarships. For example, South St. Paul has an education foundation that has a $9 million endowment. We have a $2.2 million. Last year, they gave $456,350 in scholarships. Leaf gave $12,000 in scholarships. Last year, South St. Paul gave $58,800 in program support. Leaf gave $261,562. To me, what that says is that the St. Cloud community is willing to support education, not just through building a scholarship fund in their name, but that impacts all of the kids in our district, and we really think that that's important.
We do too.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mose and Mr. Hentges, great to see both of you. Thank you for all that you do for all of our kids, the community, our staff, our administrators. I just wanted to say thank you to the two of you.
Thank you very much.
Natalie, did you want to jump in? Did you have a question?
I just also wanted to say thank you. So one of the grants that you guys gave was to North and South GSA, and my youngest child is a part of GSA, and it is has been a lifesaver for them at North. So thank you for that. Also about the Music Matters one, as a former music teacher, that's right up my alley, and my kids are all in music in the district. And I just wanted to make a plug for the fact that we have so many choirs in our area for students, community choirs, but there's no community band. And now with losing the marching band as well, and both of my kids at Apollo are in band. And so they're like, where's the community bands in our area for people our age? So just to put that bug in your ear that we're up to here with the number of choirs we have for all ages, but band is really seeming to go by the wayside. Thank you for your work.
Thank you guys very much. Good seeing you too.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Next up, we have the American Indian Education Update and American Indian Parent Advisory Committee Compliance Documentation. Tonight, joining us are Ayan Omar, Equity Service Director, and Lacey Locken, American Indian and Equity Program Supervisor. Welcome, and thanks for your beautiful displays.
Thank you. I had to grab some props because when you follow Lincoln, Talahi, and Leaf, you gotta up your game a minute. Okay. Oh.
You're on?
Yes, I'm gonna share a little bit about that here in a minute. Thank you, Monica. I'm happy to be here. All right. Good evening, Chair House, Superintendent Jett, and members of the school board. My name is Ayan Omar, the Director of Equity Services for our schools, its students, staff, and families. Education is an important cornerstone for self-sufficiency and quality of life. The mission of equity is to develop, implement, support, and/or evaluate all equity activities, programs, and services district-wide to effectively support staff and students. The department strives to ensure that all District 742 staff and students have access to an equitable and high-quality education. Equity Services' top priority is narrowing the achievement gap by creating equitable educational, social, and emotional programs and opportunities that promote student and staff educational success. This evening, I'm introducing Lacey Locken, the Supervisor for American Indian and other equity programs throughout our district. Lacey plays a key role in ensuring our staff have the resources and skills necessary to provide Native American learners and their families equitable educational opportunities, And this evening, Lacey will provide us an update. Lacey?
Right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lacey Locken, Indian Education and Equity Program Supervisor. I am an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, and I am a descendant of Turtle Mountain. And I am excited to be here with you all tonight to share an update about Indian education and what we are currently doing and things that we have planned. I just want to first share this little grounding slide that has been important to me this year, especially in the times of COVID. It can be very heavy, I think, for most of us have experienced that in some way. But this slide here talks about Woanshida, which is the Dakota word for compassion. And it really just talks about how we should treat each other like relatives and how important it is to be a good relative. And you will often hear elders say that, be a good relative. Are you being a good relative, in a way to check yourself to make sure that you're aligning yourself with your core values. And then a special point here, the Mitaki Yasin, which is a way that we end a lot of our letters, a lot of our speaking events, and again, just a grounding space to remind ourselves and each other that we are all related. So just wanted to share that piece, and also as an example of a way that we can incorporate cultural learning and just conversation with students, talking about core values and how our actions either are aligning with those or if we need to make some changes to do so. This slide here is just a reminder. You have all seen this before. I've put it in my other presentations, but it's just a reminder about the Indian Education Act of 1988. This is where the state of Minnesota recognized that there are unique educational and culturally related academic needs for our American Indian students. And so this really solidifies and is the foundation for Indian education within school districts in the state of Minnesota. The goals for our Indian Ed program this year have changed a little bit. These are the goals that you would have seen prior to this year. The Indian Ed goals were aligned with the world's best workforce goals, so they all should look very familiar to everyone here. MDE did a fantastic and exciting change to the goal areas for this year, and so now they look like this. Special attention to Area 3, which is exciting to make curriculum relevant to the needs, interests, and cultural heritage of American Indian pupils. Area 4, positive reinforcement of self-image of American Indian pupils. Area 5, develop intercultural awareness among pupils, parents, staff. And those are some exciting areas for us. We do plan on using a rubric, which I will speak about at the end. It's the same one we talked about last year to help measure goal area 3 and 5. Area 4, we are going to be working with students, parents, stakeholders, our data folks to figure out the best ways in which we can try to measure positive self-image, and then do that with fidelity, because that will help, we'll be able to establish our baseline data and then use that to establish our future goals. So a few things about what we have been doing and what our plans are for the remainder of the school year. We are offering our Ojibwe language table held weekly. That's a virtual language table. It's just an informal opportunity for parents, family, whoever is in the home that wants to join to learn some informal Ojibwe language. It's been very fun and exciting. We are grateful for the approval of the Ojibwe course proposal and excited about that. Since its approval, we are able to try to move forward with talking to the right people to make sure that we are creating the course in a mindful way in respect to all the cultural considerations. In March, we are hosting a Native book club for 9th through 12th grade students, where we will be all reading the same book and then gathering, hopefully in person, but possibly virtually at the end of March to discuss our book. And if we have success, hopefully continue that on to another month. We met with our partnering institutions, St. John, St. Ben's, and St. Cloud State, regarding our annual spring powwow, which sadly we haven't been able to have for a short time. And the discussion was that we thought it would be a smart idea to try to move the powwow to fall of this next school year instead of try to host it in the spring. So in lieu of that, we are going to have a different type of event and bring a speaker on site, which would be a collaborative event as well. We heard from our parent committee that it was important to do something around kind of like just the healing and offer some words because of all that everyone has been going through with the pandemic, students, families, all people. So that is the goal. The date is to be determined yet. Ribbon skirts and hand drum making will be happening in March and April for our students and families. Our Stepping into the Circle group is for high school age students 9 through 12. Tech McKinley and Apollo, a good opportunity for us to connect with high school students as a collective or individually, depending on the student preference, to talk about culture, plans, whatever it is that the student would like to speak about. We've created a Schoology page for our educators, which have some quick links to accurate and authentic resources. So it's trying to make teaching easier for teachers so they don't have to spend a lot of time to comb through various resources and wonder if something is a good resource to fit their need in the classroom. We also have, here's my prop opportunity, our puppet and book box. So these are fantastic. Little puppets, right? And this book, and just like the books and the puppets are all together, and this alone meets the standard, the Minnesota State standard for kindergarten first graders regarding American Indians. So it's a fantastic, easy access way for teachers, good entry point, and who does not? Dr. Putton loves this. Whoops. Okay, let's not do that during a school board meeting again. Okay. I should have went with it. That would have been a great act. That would have been great. So that was the puppets. All right. And then we have our art bundles and culture trunks, which if you all would take just a peek behind you, we have set up some of the items. It's not even all of the items, but I didn't want to be too overwhelming. But there are some of the pieces. This is all available for staff to be able to take pieces of it, take large chunks of it, incorporate it into their classroom teaching however they see fit, either to meet a standard or else just to enhance learning and provide some other opportunities. So we are excited when we get taken up on that offer, and we'll continue to try to promote that for teachers.
Lacey, can we get that on camera somehow, what she's referencing there? Because this is recorded and will be up on our YouTube channel. I don't know how to make that happen, but. Isn't it recording her talking right now or not? Never mind. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I wanted to just share a couple of photos here. You may have seen some of them on the 742 Facebook page, but we had the opportunity to take our teepee to some elementary schools to set up. We set it up early in the morning, and teachers had the chance to bring students out. Jim Knutson-Kolodzny, who works with us a lot, he sat out in the cold all day, multiple times, and really gave the students like this kind of guided tour, but they were not moving much. But it was a very exciting time for us. This is outside of Lincoln Elementary, and I just want to share just a couple cute little thank you notes because these littles crack me up so much. So one says, "Dear Mr. Knutson, Miigwech for teaching me more about my culture. A question that I have is, what if all the men got sick? Who would take care of hunting?" Okay. This one says, "Thank you for the teepee. We all appreciate you coming to show us the teepee, even though we didn't ask." And then this last one here that I wanted to share just says, "Thank you for teaching me that girls are in charge." And that really was a true thing that they learned because in the Dakota way, the women were in charge of the teepee. So that student was very much listening and paying attention. So just wanted to share that. Also wanted to highlight a few students and a few photos from last year's graduate honoring that we hosted. This was at McKinley. And this was a great celebration for our Native students. They were invited to participate. We had a small gathering because of COVID restrictions, so they were only able to invite a couple of guests. But we honored them with a drum group, some honor songs. We had an elder there, we had a guest speaker. These students here received Eagle Feathers, which is one of the highest honors that you can receive as an Indigenous person, specifically Dakota, Lakota, Nakota people. And so we are hosting another graduate honoring this year. Our tentative date is May 26th, location to be determined. Hopefully it can be an outdoor event this year, but we are very excited. We got a lot of positive feedback from our families and from our students who felt it was just kind of really a special night to showcase them, and it was all about our students, so we love that. Oh my goodness, almost thought my video wasn't gonna pop up for a second. Okay, so next I wanted to share a short little clip with student voice. You're gonna see a student here, and what you're also gonna notice is there's some goal areas specific on the bottom as you watch the video. Those goal areas align with the goals in the beginning for our new MDE Indian Ed plan. And so things that she is saying are going to inform the work that we do. So I just wanted to let you know that. So let's cross your fingers.
My name is Amanda Kina. I am a sophomore at Tech High School. I am Alaska Native. I am a two-sport athlete. I play football and lacrosse. I am proud to be an Indigenous person. Also, a lot of my people all around America that are Indigenous, just to be here, to be proud, and yet also having the stories to be told to me from my elders is like feeling that warmth and happiness. Makes you feel that warmth and love and caring and even just celebrating. It just really makes me proud of how much progress nowadays people have accepted our ways of celebrating and not just discriminating against us. For me to feel more included, I would tell them that if it's like a holiday, like National Indigenous People Day, actually like celebrating it and yet actually have appropriate decorations during that time. And also just have like a little decoration like teachers always do, like having a little decoration in that room based on some of the cultures that are commonly seen around our district and schools. And yet I would just love to have like a few designs of Native cultural arts, because that would just be a dream come true, just to see some art that I know just to be up as a decoration, and I would feel very welcomed into the district and my classrooms. I believe lack of knowledge or education of Indigenous culture itself can really lead to a lot of stereotyping of what people are physically appeared as or what they are trying to celebrate and share with their friends and teachers.
All right. We are very appreciative and grateful for Amanda for having the courage to share her voice. It was very exciting that she was actually wanted. It was her idea. She had something to say and she wanted to share it. So that was very exciting. If I can page forward here.
My name is Amanda Kina.
Guys, I swear I'm usually better than this. Okay, but why is this not on my full screen now? What? I don't know what happened. Okay. All right, we'll go with that. So this piece right here is an area, or this whole rubric is something that I presented last year, and it's actually identical. There hasn't been any movement on it. And so this is what partners, this is a scoring piece that partners that self-assessment rubric that came in your informational packet. And so created by MDE, self-assessment that says what is considered a fully implemented Indian education program, much broader than just creating cultural events. It's much bigger than that. And so this is where we were last year. I mentioned in the beginning that goal area 5 was an area that we were going to try to use to help measure a few of those goals in the beginning. They really tie back to this learning and teaching piece of it. And so we have been meeting as a group with some members of the learning and teaching team to figure out some nice natural ways where we feel like we can make some movement in goal area 5 as we move into this next school year. So hopefully we'll have some movement on that soon. A reminder about this fantastic partnership we have between the district and our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, also known as APAC. They are, any district that has 10 or more American Indian students is actually required to have an advisory committee. And its purpose is to help ensure that American Indian students are receiving culturally relevant and equitable educational opportunities. And it's critical to the achievement and success of our American Indian students statewide. Their presence and input and knowledge is key to strengthening district and parent partnerships. So the whole purpose, the large picture is that our parents have a lot of input, and so they share that with me. I collect those voices, and then I use them to inform programming. I share them with the appropriate people at meetings, and it just really comes together so we can have an ongoing working relationship between each other. One of the requirements by MDE is that once a year, our parent committee has to vote on our concurrence and non-concurrence compliance documentation, and then that documentation and that vote gets presented to the school board once a year. So this piece you will remember from last year as well. Nothing has changed on this slide. It was simply the what does concurrence look like. This was a ask of the school board for quite some time, saying, well, where are we going and how are we going to know when we get there? And so last year this was presented as sort of what could it look like, this is a possible destination for us, right? So it provided us at least some ending points so we can create some plans to get there. And right now would be where I would pause my update piece and introduce to you our parent representative, Kip Perkins, but he has fallen ill and is unable to join us tonight. So on his behalf, I have this to read and present to you. And it says, prior to March 1st of each year, the APAC must meet to discuss whether or not they concur with the educational offerings that have been extended by the district to American Indian students. If the APAC finds that the district has been meeting the needs of American Indian students, they issue a vote of concurrence. If they find that the district has not been meeting the needs of American Indian students, they issue a vote of non-concurrence. On January 16th, the APAC has met and has a vote of non-concurrence. So with a vote of non-concurrence comes recommendations from the Parent Advisory Committee. They're just simply some ideas or suggestions saying this might help us move along down towards our goals that we have here. And so I have those recommendations I can give to you, Chair Haas, or I can leave them with Jan for after the meeting if you would like. All right. Before I ask for questions, I just wanted to share one more great illustration from our TP time because our young people did some great learning and are fantastic artists, and I love them. So that is all I have tonight. Does anyone have questions?
Thank you. Monica, and then Al.
So one of the questions that I have, thank you very much, great presentation, I love it. I was really excited about this presentation, I saw it wrong. Anyway, going back to the question, so the Ojibwe course.
Yes.
Did it start already?
No.
Oh, okay. So when do we know about numbers, about registration, about people getting in it? When are we gonna know that?
Anyone else can jump in. I think the course offerings or registration is currently happening.
Okay, cool. I was looking at the picture that you brought up, the TP, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about what are you teaching the kids with that TP? How would you teach about that? I want you to expand on it, because, so why if I just put a TP on my yard, and is that okay?
Are you inviting me over first? No. First, well, it depends on the age group too, right? About what gets shared. But basically, it talks about, what teepees were made out of, the construction of the teepee, because it's all very strategic. And there are a lot of lessons that, like math lessons that can go to it, because Jim taught me, truthfully. And so we did a lot of the first time we put the TP up, it took us 2.5 hours. And then by the last time we put the TP up, we got it down in an hour, but that was with 3 of us in the cold when you have to use your fingers and it was freezing. So that was a little bit of a delay, but they learn about TP etiquette. Like, how do you sit? How do you come in a TP? How do you leave a TP? How do you act when you're inside a TP? Do you speak or do you listen? And what direction does the teepee set? The door sets in the specific direction of the sun rising. So specific things like that. And then they have a lot of questions. So it's a good time for questions. So construction of the teepee, teepee etiquette, a little bit of history about people who was in charge of the teepee. Obviously, kids have a lot of questions about, well, then what did everybody else do? Or where did everybody sleep? Or any of those types of questions. So it really depends on the age level too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One comment extra. I was in the Amazon last December, and I went to Amaloca, which is a house or a teepee, but it's standing. I mean, you don't take it off, and they have an etiquette, and it's very similar to what you're saying, and it was fun to learn about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. About the recommendations from the parents and the non-compliance, I thought that we had done something different about those steps. You did mention that, but I did not see the difference. Like when it was after the meeting last time, I thought that we had some kind of steps that look more achievable to us. What happened with that?
Are you talking about the board response to it, maybe? So the rubric piece of it?
I think so.
So the rubric piece, that part really involves a lot of different district departments. And so that is how it was a self-scoring piece. And so those folks that scored it, that's how we ended up. And we have had some meetings, but just because all things pandemic related, we haven't really been able to formulate any plans to help move those along. And so we're just getting to that right now this spring. And so that's where we have the learning and teaching meetings that are collaborating with us, so we can have some natural spots things are already happening, so we can just go in together to make some progress there. Unless it is the board response piece, and that one's after today, there's 60 days for the board to respond to the recommendations of the parent committee. I'm not sure if it could be either of those.
So to be honest, I don't remember exactly what. I do remember the conversation that we always have at this moment, and there is always a board member, not always me, that says, actually never me, that says, what can we do to get there, because we're going to be in compliance forever. And I may not be remembered correctly, or if it was part of the response, but that's what I thought that we had done last time, that you came up after the meeting and you told us that this is a way that we could see that progress. And maybe I'm wrong or not about that, but I would like to see something about, if you put up the goals for a sec, please.
Yes. Whoops. Are you talking about this piece?
Yeah, for the parents, the compliance.
Yep.
So, for example, if each American Indian student graduates from high school on time, is there any way that we can see some progress on that from year to year? 2 years ago, it was I don't know,
Yes, yes,
out of
and yeah,
3
so
students, 2 or
yeah, no, I understand what you're asking. These pieces right here, some of them are automatically measurable, like obviously the graduation rate piece is a measurable piece for us, and some we have to be creative and be able to get those intentional measurements in place so we can provide some more specific progress in that. However, I would just a reminder, like our graduation rates and a lot of our data, we wouldn't be able to report publicly because our sample sizes are too small for our students. And so that varies from year to year on what we're able to share in a public space. But we are able to talk about it internally within district staff.
yeah, I remember that, but it's not possible to say in years past how had it changed the percentage of graduation rates?
I'm going to have to defer that question to Ms. Donna Roper.
Yeah, good evening. It's possible for us to go back and capture data on some of these. Most of these that Lacey has before you, it's definitely possible for us to look at the hard metrics, course enrollment, course success, graduation. I'm looking at what else she has on there, attendance. The pieces that are a little softer are things like the qualitative pieces that would have to be captured through a self-assessment or a survey, perhaps. And those are pieces that we're working to put in place. Answer your question?
Yes, so I'm
Donna?
hearing that is possible.
Donna, the question that I have is because of the small, I want to say sample size in terms as it relates to data privacy and things of that nature, that's one of the questions that I believe Monica is asking. Because of that, are we allowed to answer or report or put in slides the question that Monica is asking?
And so Lacey is correct when she says if the cell count is below 20 and there's a reasonable possibility for the students to be identified in any way, we would not be able to present that. So we will always be looking at that. And so she's correct. If there are detailed measures that get to a certain cell size, 20 or less, or you can identify the student, or a reasonable person in the community could identify the student, we would not be able to bring that forward.
Al?
Thanks, Lacey, for everything you do. Monica's right. Somebody always says something about, we're non-compliant every year, and what is it going to take for us to become compliant? And it seems like it's just a moving target somewhat in that every year we move towards the goal, but we're never going to get there. We're always going to be non-compliant. And it would be nice to know what it would take for us to actually become compliant. On this page right here is always a little bit of a disconnect for me. And let me tell you why. I agree with every bullet on there except for two, which are really confusing to me. One of them is each American, number three, each American Indian student is fully knowledgeable about American Indian language, heritage, and culture. And to me, from a parent group, that's a goal for the American Indian students, is that you're saying that we want that to occur for all of the American Indian students. But I don't know that it's a goal for the district, because it isn't. We don't teach American Indian students everything that they need to know about American Indian language, heritage, and culture. A lot of that comes from the American Indian community and is taught to them. And so I don't know how this becomes a school district goal. In order for us to become compliant, we have to, we can't do this. We need to learn from you. We can't teach you. And so that's a disconnect for me on that one. And the next one, each American Indian student attends and graduates from post-high school career educational programs. When the American Indian students graduate from high school, they no longer are a part of our district. And when we say that it's the goal for the District 742 to ensure that a student attends and graduates from post-high school career and educational programs, I don't understand how we can be put in a position to affect that. We can certainly encourage students to attend after high school, post-secondary educational program, but to ensure that they graduate, and it's beyond something that I think that we can accomplish in our district. So right there are two things to me that are a disconnect that either could be reworked or reworded so it would give us a lot stronger focus on what we can do to help bring our district into compliance. So.
Yeah, and certainly, I don't want to speak for the parent committee, but I will just offer a different perspective maybe on the bullet point number 3, is that we have students that are that don't live with parents who identify as Native. So we have that component from some of our families. And so if we look back at the goal areas from MDE, something specific to MDE says positive self-image, cultural awareness, and that intercultural education and understanding. So I think if we show a link between those two, then it would fall under the responsibility of the district to be able to foster that positive self-image for students. And I would also say that these were just really starting points from what was, the ask of the parent committee, and I don't think that they should be interpreted as like must check off all of these pieces. And our parent committee is very understanding and definitely wanting to partner in this process here, and I'm sure we are open for discussion on any of these pieces going forward. But this just gives us a nice area to work towards.
Natalie?
Thank you, Lacey. I've got to hear this 2 times now today. So it is my lucky day, Scott and I. Can you go back to something you said this morning that I wanted you to highlight that I don't think you mentioned it this time? The Ojibwe language course, when you said you're going to work with elders, and you explained it beautifully how language is part of. I'm not going to explain it. So can you explain what you said?
And I rarely say the same thing twice, so I'm going to try to do my best. So when it comes to Indigenous language, it's a little, we try to be very mindful because within Indigenous language, it's intertwined with cultural teachings. And so we just want to make sure that we have all the right voices and all the right blessings, from the appropriate people, from the elders, from members of the community, from other folks and programs who are doing language revitalization. We just want to make sure that we are honoring the the formation of that class and doing it in a good way, because we want to, we just know how important that is for our tribal communities. So,
thank you. I wanted to say 2 more things. One is, I think about and I think it is the 7-generation rule or concept of an Indigenous concept that I have learned in different trainings, that we're thinking about. We're not just thinking about the generation we're in now, that we're thinking about 7 generations, so our great. So we may never be in concurrence while we sit on this board, and that's what Scott and I were saying today, but have a day where that does happen. And that may not happen in our generation, but that's why, to me, it's so important to know other cultures, because I think about that 7 generation. I think it's the Iroquois who made that. I think about that all the time in my work and in my family and things like that. That's a teaching that I carry with me. And then today as well, speaking about number 3, where Al was asking about under the what does concurrence look like, I liked how this morning you said that directly relates to the district and school self-assessment rubric. And so that to me, once we get everything to fully implemented, that number 3 would be close to being met at least. So it reminds me of like all the different components of things that come together to have one plan. There's this as well in here. So I know it's a lot of work, and I know you are doing great work, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So just kind of in addition to what Natalie's saying, a little bit of what Al is saying, what I'm looking for about these bullet points is the milestones. And if we have milestones for each year, do we comply with those milestones? Because yes or not, it really doesn't give us any information. I don't know if we're going better or not. I do realize that we might never be compliant, and part of what I have heard Jim saying in the same table here before is we're looking for erasing years of historic trauma here. So yeah, it will take probably as many more years to erase that or to go to comply with this. If I had been understanding what this is about, might be wrong. You correct me if I am. So, but I am looking for, okay, what is this year? What do we do this year? Do we comply with that, or we put too far to reach goals for each year? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I don't think we have anything like that established to share with you right now. And, going forward, we would be able to share some of those pieces, and then the development of some of those more qualitative pieces like Donna mentioned, we will be able to have some baseline data to share, so then we can be able to see from year to year what that looks like. I don't necessarily know that that would directly impact the vote of the parent committee, just because that's their, they get to decide that. And so I can't say for certain that would or would not, and I don't want to speak on their behalf when it comes to that piece, so.
Correct, but I'm not asking them to change their vote or to change their ultimate goals, which are these ones. What I'm asking them or you to work with them is that what is the achievable piece of each one of these goals that is going to happen this year? Where can we see progress? And I also wanted to check with maybe somebody that can help us check if it's too difficult to discuss this because of privacy issues. Is it possible to discuss it in a class session? Is it possible to have this information in a closed session so we can see that? So the matters can be discussed in a closed session? Okay.
Maybe I'm speaking out of turn, Willie, but you could tell me if it's something where you really want to know the data. I think that you can meet one-on-one with Lacey, and you can get more data on a one-on-one setting as a board member.
I'm always happy and invite any one-on-one meetings.
Somebody trying to jump in there? We're good? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure seeing you. Thank you for the beautiful displays over there.
Yes, thanks for the time tonight.
Thank you for bringing the trunk load of stuff.
Yes.
We asked her to bring one trunk, and she just brought the gamut, so.
It was a lot. It was a lot. All right.
Okay, moving on to discussion and action items. First up, we have the review of universal masking presented tonight by Willie Jett, Superintendent of District 742 Schools.
Good evening, Chair Hawes, members of the board. This evening, I will present to you our recommendation. Oh, wait a minute, it's not even ready. So I'm just going to hold on. Start all over. All right. Good evening, Chair Hawes, members of the board. This evening, I will present to you our recommendation on universal masking for our school district. Tonight's conversation regarding universal masking might be highly anticipated, I'm sure. Next slide, please. So this slide shows District 742's COVID-19 case counts during trimester 2, from December 2nd until now. Our school community's health data mirrors local and state trends. And as you can see, we are experiencing a significant decrease in cases as this wave of infection subsides. Can you leave that up there for 1 second? Because I know that board members were paying attention. Okay, next slide, please. So after looking at our data and through discussions with MDE and local health officials, we are recommending an end to the universal masking in our school community effective Thursday, February 17th. This means masking is optional in our schools. However, due to the federal transportation mandate, masks will continue to be required on all school buses and district transportation vehicles. We will continue to employ mitigation strategies, including encouraging good hand hygiene, using enhanced ventilation, and requesting that people stay home when ill. Additionally, KN95 masks will be available to students and staff at each school, and free student and staff at-home test kits have been ordered and will soon be available at schools upon request. What I also want you to know is, will we be monitoring the data? Yes, we will, so that will continue. Lastly, we appreciate this community's support. We are grateful for our parents and families for guiding and supporting their children during these times. Questions? Yes,
Scott?
sir.
There's been an awful lot of pseudoscience out there on each side of the issue, and I would like to know where you are getting your science to support this recommendation.
So during the presentation, I talked about a conversation with MDE, MDH, and our local health officials. And so the local health officials, you're talking about St. Cloud Hospital, CentraCare, MDE and MDH, that's Minnesota Department of Health and the Minnesota Department of Education.
Okay, do you give them our numbers and they punch it into a computer and out comes the answer, or how does that work?
So I don't know if they take the numbers and if they pop them into a computer, but we have conversations and select the slide that I just got done showing in terms of our data, and it's up on the screen now, in showing the case counts and showing the trends within our data. That's the discussions that we have. We discuss that, and then we have a conversation from there. And what they told us in that conversation is our data is matching or trending the same way that the state says.
Okay.
Are there more?
Anyone else?
So last time we voted on this, so we are looking for a vote. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
I would move that we accept the administration's recommendation to end universal masking tomorrow.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Al, a second by Scott. Any further discussion? Natalie?
First of all, I'm not a doctor, so I defer to our doctors on this, to our local health officials for sure. I think I just want to say one concern that I have when it comes to looking at these numbers is that January spike. I know it was during Omicron spike, but as well, it's a couple of weeks after our break. And so I just want to say that my concern with coming back from spring break where there's not as much masking, I'm just concerned that we'll see that same sort of a spike. But that may not be the way it is because of the Omicron variant going down. So just want to say that out loud. But thank you for involving people who know what they're doing with this decision, because that's important.
Al?
Thanks, Rob. You know, anyone who says follow the science, there is no way to follow the science. There is science that says both sides of the issue. Follow the science is just kind of a way to virtue signal or somehow imply that you're more enlightened than other people because of the science that you follow says something, and that's what you choose to follow. I mean, here's a list of 47 studies, peer-reviewed studies, that confirm the ineffectiveness of masks for COVID, and 32 more confirm their negative effects on health. Dentists are talking about mouths that look horrible from kids wearing masks. People are suffering all kinds of problems from carbon dioxide inhalation, too much of it, and low oxygen levels. And there's just so much fake science out there that nobody knows. And the only thing that really we could look at to say, is this the right decision or not, is look at our numbers, look at the numbers from the surrounding districts that didn't have masks. They're virtually the same. They had the same spike with or without masks. So I'm not going to say that has to do with not wearing masks. And it's the same nationally. They had an Omicron spike and now it's falling off, and it's falling off very quickly. So I mean, there isn't any science out there on this particular issue that you can follow. So, I mean, I've never been in support of wearing masks. I believe that God gave me an immune system and it works pretty darn good. That's the way we were meant to breathe. We weren't meant to breathe with a diaper over our face. So I'm certainly in support of the administrative recommendation here. One thing that I would like to see is, I think back to the days when I was in grade school and there was a Cold War going on and teachers made us go through these drills where we had to climb under our desk while the buzzer was going off, and it scared the heck out of you as a kid. I mean, they were telling you that if you didn't get under that, you need to prepare because there could be a bomb dropped around here anytime, and we need to be ready for the fallout, and if you don't get under the desk, you're not going to be protected, you could die. And we've been telling kids with masks, if you don't comply, you could die. And, I heard the parent say it tonight that his kid is afraid to take his mask off because the child thinks they're going to die if they take their mask off. What a horrible, horrible thing for a kid to think that it's that uncontrollable out there in the world. And think about the effects that this has had on kids. And we're part of that, whether we want to believe it or not. And I really think that as we move into this, we shouldn't just say, we're just, no masks today, everything's okay. I mean, we have to understand that this can be a very scary thing for kids, especially kids where their parents have been preaching how dangerous it is out there. And if they don't wear their masks, they're going to get sick. I mean, these kids can be very fearful when they take these masks off. And I think that we should be ready to show some compassion. We should probably have mental health consultants or people on hand, just like we would if there was a tragedy in the school, to be able to deal with students who are having a difficult time dealing with it also. It's not just a yippee-yay for everybody. So those are that's my 2 cents on this thing. And like I said, I am fully in support of the direction that you're recommending.
Scott?
Personally, I think another 30 days wouldn't have hurt. But on the other hand, I am willing to go with the recommendation of the administration. I think they've done their due diligence. Personally, I'm in an at-risk category. I've had COVID. I was down for 3 weeks, and the only thing that kept me out of a hospital was a CPAP machine that forced air into my lungs when I was sleeping. So I'm very careful about this, and I will wear a mask, but I understand the right of other people not to.
I support this, and I'm ready to call roll if, oh, Zach?
More kind of hesitant.
Okay.
Just more of a procedure question. An email already went out to the entire staff saying that the decision has been made. So what are we voting on?
No.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I don't get. I would like that clarified. What are we voting on if it's already been decided?
That was an error.
So, Zach, that was an error as I got ready to start the presentation. As I tried to click a button so that I could get to the presentation, I hit the wrong button.
Monica?
So I want to tell my perspective about some of the comments that Al made. I agree with you about kids being scared if you telling them that if they take the mask off, they're gonna die. And I really wanted people to rethink about what message are we giving to kids, because that is not what I will tell any kid. The mask, in all what I have read and I have seen, is not to protect you from getting an illness. It's to protect everyone else from you to give the illness to everybody else. Doctors wear masks when they are performing operations in people, not to not get sick from the people. They are wearing masks to not get the people sicker from something that they may have when they breathe. So the message is different the way that I see it, and it is to protect everybody else. And unfortunately, it doesn't work with personal choice, because it's not about me, it's about everybody else. And that's the way that I have seen this, and the way that I have seen it. I will say that I am torn right now about this decision. I know everybody's tired about it. I have been reading emails about it. I also have been reading the emails about people that want to keep this and people that really want to have this here. And yes, there is science in everywhere, and everybody tells you this is what you should do and what's not. And it is a really hard decision. My question to you, Willie, and I will say that I will go with the recommendations of what I believe are experts, which are the group of people that you met. You didn't mention public health. I wonder if they are in that group. And what they are seeing in terms of, what did they say? What is exactly what they said? Did they say, we recommend that you do this right now, or we think that it's okay if you might decide to do that? Did they have a recommendation about it?
Conversation and many of the questions that the board has asked individually. So talking about spring break, talking about an additional 2 weeks or 30 days. Those kind of questions were asked. Okay, so just so you know, the conversation was rich. And so once we went over the numbers, once we looked at counts and things of that nature, the conversation came to, and the wording that was said was, you should now be able to go to masks being optional. That was the wording. They support the recommendation. And so that it wasn't about, how do I want to phrase this? Do you think we should not do it? I mean, I asked the question like I always ask. And so bottom line is the group said, Willie, we support going with masks optional, your district, the numbers match up. And that was kind of the end of the discussion. They talked about local or surrounding school districts. We got into all those kind of scenarios.
Okay, so I have another question for administration. Going with mask optional for me represents a bigger issue than saying yes or no. So what does that option mean? What happens if a teacher doesn't feel comfortable with his or her students in the classroom and would prefer that every student wears a mask? Is that considered somehow? Is that how is that Do we have any other guidelines for people, for administration?
So Tracy is sitting there, and from an HR perspective, when we go ahead and make the recommendation to the board, there's two ways you can vote on it. If you were to vote in support of the recommendation, staff has the option for a mask. Your question in terms of now can a staff member say, well, I want all my students to wear a mask? Okay, that's not something that a staff member could do because it would be we're sitting here voting on that tonight.
We just want to acknowledge that we got tons of emails on this, and it was really interesting because the emails were split 50-50, and it's from community members, parents, staff members. And even talking with my kids were like, this is going to be scary if we don't all mask. So, I mean, there's that both sides sort of a thing to it. But what I told my kids is I have to go with what the experts are saying in our community. The medical experts are saying what you said, Willie, and that's been my barometer since the beginning. So I will also be supporting the recommendation.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? Monica?
I actually want to amend the motion to review the masking policy 2 weeks after spring break.
Okay, and now I'm going to be stuck. We have a motion, a second on the table. So looking for some expertise here. Can we we would have to remove the motion off of the table? Little help here.
Amended, can it?
Zach?
No, the motion,
Simon?
why are you removing the motion? I'm saying that I want to put an amendment in this motion. Can I not do that?
I think we'd have to take off can somebody help me here? I would think we have a motion and a second on the table.
I don't know what the amendment's asking for.
What is the original motion?
Motion is to accept the administration. The motion was to accept the administration's recommendation to end the universal masking mandate starting tomorrow morning.
So what I am asking is, I move to amend that motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to end the masking policy tomorrow with a review in 2 weeks after spring break. Is any second?
Sorry. Second.
Okay, are you saying approve the motion but review it after 2 weeks?
Review the policy, yeah, not the motion.
Confused, sorry.
Do the practice of it. It's not a policy, right? Remove the masking, universal masking practice. Basically have another presentation 2 weeks after spring break, I think is what Monica is asking for.
Okay, but you're saying we're still going with approving this, right? And you're asking if we can have a presentation in 2 weeks to discuss universal masking again? Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking for another vote about coming with mask or not in 2 weeks after the spring break,
Spring break, when is that, Willie?
like a month from here.
Spring break is March 7th through the 11th.
Be at halfway through the try, correct?
The trimester 2 begins, so trimester 2 ends, I believe, March 4th, because I think our board meeting is March 2nd, that Wednesday. So that Friday would be the end of trimester 2, then we go on break, and then when we return, that would be the beginning of trimester 3.
Right, but then she's saying 2 weeks after the beginning of the trimester, so that would put it out into the middle of the trimester roughly.
2 weeks. It would be 2 weeks of 2 weeks of the trimester. So mid-tri is usually 6.
First meeting in April.
Because we've been on a halfway through, our review cycle has been trimester and halfway through the trimester.
Correct.
Would you be okay with continuing with the same review cycle, Monica, you're talking a couple weeks difference.
What am I saying? What, I mean, you,
Right now, we've been reviewing the masking every trimester and halfway through the trimester.
that would be, so what I'm saying is to review it with the dates that Willie was saying, like, would be like the first week of April, correct? So you're saying is that the one that we had been practicing is like, what, the second week of April? Yeah, it's like a week difference, what we're saying?
Not a whole lot different.
I need to look at a calendar.
We're talking about either the first meeting of April or the second meeting of April, right?
Yeah,
Of when the
first
review
or
is.
second meeting.
I think we're saying this, the first. I would like to see the first meeting in April, that we see the numbers again.
And I think that the administration wasn't saying we're never going to talk about this again. I think the implication there was that we continue this conversation daily, weekly.
That we would be continuing to monitor. That's something that we've done from the very onset.
Yeah, my amendment will bring the to vote again at that moment. I know the administration is just monitoring all the time. So, well, if you don't like it, just vote no. I mean, or I don't know if we have an amendment on the table.
Yeah, my 2 cents would be that we vote on the motion that Al made, and then if you would like a future agenda item to formally be that you want another vote coming mid-trimester rather than a discussion.
Madam Chair, point of order.
The point of order for
Ask what we would be voting on if we have a review of it and there's no need for it to go back to a mask mandate, exactly what would we be voting on? Can we just have our review like we have had? And if all of a sudden the numbers spike way up again, I'm sure that there would be some form of a recommendation coming forward to move forward with the masking program again. But if we're not wearing masks, if we don't have the policy in place and we're not going to put it in place, what would the vote be?
That we don't put it in place. That we continue to be as is.
Madam Chair, the point of order here, here's what it says in Robert's Rules of Order. It says, raise your hand and make a following motion. I move to amend the motion on the floor, so that's what Monica did. And then that required a second, that was me. After the motion to amend is seconded, a majority vote is needed to decide whether the amendment is accepted. And then a vote is taken on the amended motion. So we have to take a vote to accept the amended motion.
Okay. So we are voting on to accept Monica's amended motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and correct in saying that I have a motion by Monica and a second by Natalie, is that correct? Okay, so I'm going to call roll because Dr. Les Green had to step away about an hour ago. So maker of the motion is Monica.
2 votes then, one on the amendment and one on the final.
Everybody's voting twice right now.
Right now, it's just if we're accepting the amendment.
The amendment, Monica's amendment.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
okay, clear on that. So we're going to go Monica,
Yes.
Natalie,
Yes.
Al.
No.
Shannon is a no. Scott
Yes.
and Mr. Dorholt.
No.
And now I'm going to be stuck again. 3-3.
It doesn't pass, you need a full majority.
Okay, so then we're going to bounce to, I'm going to call votes on the first motion, which was by Al Dahlgren and seconded by Scott. So maker of the motion, Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
And Scott,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Natalie,
Yes.
Shannon is a yes, and Mr. Dorholt.
No.
Okay, so the motion passes then 5-1. Thank you for leadership and guidance and pulling out the rules to get us through that. Thank you. Okay, next up, moving on to another action item is approval of the 2022-2023 school calendar presented tonight by Dr. Mike Rivard, Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education.
Good evening, Chair Hawes, members of the board, and Superintendent Jett. Up on our screens and in your school board packet this last week, you received the recommendation from our calendar committee and our school board, or excuse me, and administration on next year's 2022-23 calendar. I have it up on display with both sides for the calendar notes and the actual calendar. Can everyone see that okay, or would you rather just be able to see one page at a time?
Page at a time.
Okay. So I'm going to go down to the calendar notes, and I know that you've probably seen the actual calendar, which is up here, but I think the calendar notes does a better job of maybe encapsulating what we do have planned for the 2022-23 school year as we bring this to the board to vote on. So as is traditional during that last week in August, from August 29th through the 31st, we have our back to school activities, which includes open houses, family conferences for both middle school and elementary school, and a great deal of professional development as we welcome our licensed and non-licensed staff back. During the month of September, we do have a federal holiday with Labor Day. And on that first day of school, we are welcoming our 6th and 9th graders back into our middle school and high schools. And we do have the continuation of goal setting and family conferences for early childhood, elementary, and all of Kennedy, which means on that first day of September 6th, we do not have those students in school that day. We are doing family conferences with those families as we start out our school year. On September 7th, then, all of our schools are in session. As you get down towards the end of September, we do have a teacher's workshop scheduled for that day, so there is no school for students. And in October, we have our 2 traditional days related to the MEA, statewide professional conferences that happens. In November, on November 8th, we have no school set aside for that day for teacher workshop. So teachers will be in school that day. However, we won't have students there. That also coincides with our election day. In November, we have our regular holiday for Thanksgiving. And right there during that first week in December, it is the end of the first trimester. On December 2nd, we have set aside a half day for workshop time where our teachers do work on report cards and other activities as we prepare for the start of trimester 2. And then at the end of December, we have our winter break. In January, we have our 1 federal holiday with Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Same in February with President's Day. And in March, the second trimester ends on March 3rd before our midwinter break from March 6th through 10th. April 7th, we have spring break. April 21st, we have no school that day for both staff and students. And on May 29th, we have Memorial Day. And our last day of school for students and the end of the 3rd trimester is on June 2nd. And we have ourselves coming back on June 5th for a half day of teacher workshop time. So this is the information the administration brings for a recommendation for the 2022-23 school year calendar. Are there any questions?
Al?
Mike, I have a question. You didn't mention January 2nd, and on my calendar that I printed, which was the latest, we received an email that said that use this one, this is the latest version. January 2nd showed as a day off. Am I looking at the wrong calendar?
I'm afraid you may be looking at the wrong calendar. January 2nd is being.
Showing it on there too.
So we're looking at January 2nd is not a school day. That is still part of winter break.
Is there, what's the reasoning on January 2nd, can I ask?
If I remember correctly, and Tracy could jump in on that, I believe that is still considered a holiday for our bargaining units.
Oh, for the first?
Yes,
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry,
that's okay.
my bad, but
My first time going through it too, Al. I appreciate the feedback.
that makes sense. And then I also have a question on weather makeup. There's nothing designated for weather makeup, and I know that we have our e-learning days, but what days would we, if we had the blizzard of the century and we had schools closed and e-learning, we used up all of our days and schools were closed more than the extra 5 days or 3 days or whatever it is we get, when would those days occur?
I think that would be a wonderful gift for Dr. Putnam in her first year as superintendent.
It's either that or a fire, so.
Obviously, we would exhaust our e-learning days first, and then I think there would be a discussion about whether we would be going into June. And when the timing of those the blizzard or cold weather days happened, might obviously impact how many of those e-learning days we had to use early versus whether we still had them, say, in April or end of March when it's more likely to have those big blizzards, in my opinion. But in terms of actual set-aside days, 5 days of e-learning days is much more than probably what we've had set aside in my past, where we've actually had days set aside for inclement weather makeup days. We would go into June. But I think the 5 inclement weather days would be it.
Well, I think that that's more than adequate probably, but
Sure.
If the situation arises, I always think it's good to have something designated on a calendar. You're probably not going to have to work these days, but don't buy tickets to Hawaii to leave on this day, because if we did have to go into it, that would be a day that we would use, so.
If the board has a recommendation on how we'd want the calendar to look to that, and then I would probably look to Tracy to discuss a little bit how that affects our bargaining units, if it does at all. But we would be open to recommendations as we bring the calendar forward today.
One other question I had, it is the same number of work days as the previous year of, in-service days?
Correct. As you look at the bottom, there's 169 instructional days.
Yep, I didn't see that on last year's calendar, that's why I'm asking, it wasn't listed, so.
Yeah, we were at 169 instructional days
Okay.
for this year.
Is that what the state requires?
The state requires 165 instructional days, which is where those e-learning days also play a part too. You bet. Other questions I can try and answer? I'm trying.
Okay, so then I'm looking for a motion to approve the 2022-2023 school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Natalie and a second by Scott. I'll call roll again. Monica Segura Schwartz,
Yes.
Zach Dorholt,
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth. Shannon Haas is a yes. Al Dahlgren
Yes.
and Scott Andreessen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, now for some action-packed policy readings. Okay, first up, proposed revised board policy 602. It's the second reading, organization of a school calendar and school day. Presented by Dr. Mike Brevard, again, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education.
Good evening again, Chair Haas, members of the board, Superintendent Jett. This is our second reading related to Board Policy 602. This is our policy on school calendar development, as we had just talked a little bit about calendar. Last reviewed in in 2018, and at that time, no changes had been recommended. Administration at this time is not making any recommendations to sections 1 through 4. However, as it relates to e-learning days, we are making a recommendation to add all the information that you see on your screens in green. This is related to the statute that's been added and is part of MSBA's recommended model policy. E-learning days would be used for online instruction as noted in 5A. for individual teachers due to inclement weather. B, school district may designate up to 5 e-learning days in one school year. C, an e-learning day is counted as a day of instruction and included in the hours of instruction pursuant to section 3A above. Yeah.
We're going to save you some words here.
And if someone on the board would oppose it, but can you just cover the changes from the last time that you
I certainly
presented?
can. The only changes for this are none at this time. No recommendations were made by the board at the time. Be glad to move on.
So we're looking at the same thing.
Correct.
Okay, loving it.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Then you're still up, it looks like, or is Lori up here? Or you're still up here? We have a second reading for proposed revised board policy 612.1, development of parent and family engagement policies for Title I programs, second reading.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. This is there is no changes recommended to 612.1 for parent and involvement for Title I programs. So it is the same as last month.
Okay, any questions? Excellent. Okay, next up, proposed revised board policy 603, curriculum development, second reading, presented by Lori Posch, Executive Director of Learning and Teaching.
Good evening, Chair Haas, Superintendent Jett, and members of the school board. We have 4 additional policies that are in their second reading. The first one is policy 603, curriculum development, and there are no further recommended changes on this one. The next policy is policy 606, textbooks and instructional materials. And again, with this one, there are no additional recommended changes.
You're rocking it.
Trying.
Jump in if you have a question here.
I was given directions by Superintendent Jett. And 610, we actually have 1 addition. So you should have waited till after this, Shannon. 610 is the field trip policy, and if you remember at the last school board meeting, questions came up about parents and guardians and whether or not they can transport their own children and or other children on field trips. We actually had quite a lengthy back and forth about this one and what the recommendation should be. So administration is recommending that we add a parent/guardian or other family member who is attending a field trip will not be allowed to transport any student, including their own. And we made that recommendation based on equity for our students as well as safety while they are in our care. Do you want to open that for any?
Does anybody have any comments about that? Appreciate the explanation there. Al?
What if a parent absolutely just demanded that they be able to transport their child?
We talked about some of those things. We do have some transportation waivers that we have used in the past. So I would, and Lori and Mike, please add in. What I would think would happen is that would go to the principal, who would then go to one of the assistant superintendents, and with the possibility of a waiver, but I think our recommendation would be that for the safety of the students, liability-wise, that it not be approved, but I think it would be an individual basis.
The only thing I would add is we'd have the conversation with a parent, because a field trip is more than just an excursion, right? It's an entire learning experience that typically will begin in the classroom before they even leave. Will continue throughout the conversation on the bus or the other transport, and then when they return. So they really would be missing a vital piece of that learning experience. And then at that point, it would be, again, that safety, the waiver. So we would engage in the dialogue.
Lori, I can understand that, but would it not be more likely to happen that a parent would request that they be able to transport their child home?
Without any notice.
Well, and the parent is going to be, I don't want to go to the school and wait for the bus, and I just want to go. I'm going home.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you. That would typically be where it would happen.
Right,
Yep.
so I'm wondering how that would be addressed. How do we prevent a parent from transporting their child?
I think
I would say, Al, I think I identify the challenge that you're seeing. I think part of how I would try to handle that if I was back as a principal is by being upfront and having information out to parents well beforehand about this is the policy of the school district and all the reasons that Dr. Putnam was speaking of. I would try to explain in the newsletter or whatnot that I would be sending out to those parents so that I could not maybe have that conversation if I was down at the Science Museum, that parent would know that, as the Science Museum is an example, that that child and all children will be on the bus and riding the bus home with us.
And that would be part of the materials that would go out to the parents with the field trip permission slip or whatever.
I think that's
materials
one
would
great
go.
strategy to help us enforce and put this policy into place.
Yeah, okay.
Monica?
So in that example, if I am a parent and I said, you're going to the Children's Museum and my mother-in-law lives in St. Paul and we wanted to stay in St. Paul after the Children's Museum, you will tell me that the child needs to go back, or how is that handled?
A great example where that conference or the conversation that you would have with the principal, and if it was necessary, have to come to Dr. Putnam and I would make sense. But I can already see myself saying it would only be their child. It would not be any of the friends of the children or anything like that. That I could see as a reason to have a waiver available if it's necessary and possible, but it still does take away from the experience to some degree.
Should the policy reference that in rare circumstances, a waiver may be available for a parent and their own child?
Monica?
I will not advocate for that. I think that it will make it confusing.
Keep it simple.
Natalie?
I can say, as someone who's had children in the district, especially at a younger level, that's the message we got. Even before this was added to the policy, like, it's, especially for younger kids, like when the kids were in kindergarten, first grade, I mean, it's exciting and the learning opportunity to go on the bus and to be responsible that way and to watch out for each other. And so I think it's already being practiced, basically. And yeah, I would suggest to not put it in there either, because you have to really, I would want parents to really fight for it if they wanted that, because it's not really in the best interest of learning.
This is only field trips, correct? Not athletic events or after-school activities or anything?
Right, we have a waiver for activities already in place for families who are transporting their own children or giving permission to their friends to drive them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and the final second reading tonight is on policy 613, which is graduation requirements. And again, we heard no recommendations for any additional changes to this one.
Thank you very much. You win the time award again. Okay. Last action discussion item up for tonight is an action item approval of the new superintendent contract. Again, Dr. Les Green had to step away for the night, so we're going to have Ms. Ringsmooth present that on behalf of the Personnel Negotiations Committee.
Yes, so the Personnel and Negotiations Committee has been working on our incoming superintendent's contract and have also discussed the contract with incoming Superintendent Dr. Putnam. And this contract is for a term commencing on July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2025.
Thank you for all the work that you guys have put into this. I much appreciate it. I would like to motion for approval of the superintendent contract between Dr. Lori Putnam and District 742 for, again, July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
You looking for a motion, or you
Nope,
are
I
motioning?
motioned,
Second.
moving this along.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I have a motion, but, Monica?
Well, since you're giving us so much credit, I will gonna give credit to Tracy because she worked a lot more on that than we did.
Good job, Tracy. Kept calling her back.
Is she still awake out there? Thank you, Tracy,
She's
for
there, she's
the
right there.
revised and revised and revised. So thank you very much for all of the work that got us here to this point. Much appreciated. So I have a motion by Shannon, a second by Al. Shannon will call roll here. Let's go. Monica Segura-Schwartz.
Yes.
Miss Natalie Ringsmuth.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes. The only thing that I'm questioning, and I don't want to go feel like that we should read all of the details of the contract, but I guess we make it available to the
I checked on that earlier, so yes, per request, it is a public document.
Yes, and I don't want to feel, I feel a little bit like this is motion second, no discussion
Okay.
being pushed through, and that there's going to be pushback from the public as far as not disclosing any of the terms of the contract. But it's public document, and it's available upon request by media organizations. And any
Absolutely.
member of the public,
Yes,
so.
yes, absolutely.
So my vote is yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yep, we're proud to be here tonight, so thank you. Shannon Haas is a yes. Scott Andreasen
Yes.
and Zachary Dorhold.
Yes.
All right, motion is approved. Yay, official. Thank you all for getting us there. And next, moving on to reports, we have the superintendent's report presented by Willie Jett, Superintendent of 742.
Good evening, Chair Hawes, members of the board. First, Callan Hanzlik Brill has been selected as the 2022 AAA Award finalist and will be recognized at a banquet in March during the Boys State Basketball Tournament. Some people ask what the AAA award means. That's for academics, athletics, and activities. I'd also like to congratulate the Spelling Bee winners that will be advancing to the Regional Spelling Bee to represent St. Cloud Area School District 742. The grades 5 and 6 Spelling Bee winners, there was 8 rounds. First place was Hannah Casson, 6th grade from Kennedy. Second place was Owen Johnny, 6th grade from South. And third place was Ayan Garani, 6th grade from North. The grades 7 and 8 Spelling Bee winners, there was 10 rounds there. First place, Milo Harkins, 7th grade, Kennedy. Second place, Clara Baldwin, 7th grade, North. And third place, Susanna Malmanager, 7th grade, North. Congratulations to those students. Next, the Eagles had a great meet at the Central Lake Conference. And when I say the Eagles, I'm talking about Apollo. Congratulations again to Callan Hanzlik Brill, Cade Jacobson, Louis Freeman, and Hunter Jokinen as they broke the school record that was set back in 2004 in the 200 freestyle, a 200 free relay. Congratulations. Also, I'd like to say congratulations to the St. Cloud Crush gymnastics team. They're state-bound. The high school league state tournament will be held on February 18th and 19th. And as usual, they are a participant. And finally, the St. Cloud Breakaways Alpine Ski Club competed at Wild Mountain in Taylor Falls. 2 members of the St. Cloud Area School District girls team qualified for state, Miss Abby Wright and Miss Ashley Stolt, both from Tech High School. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Next up, we have Board of Education Standing Committee reports. Achievement, Integration, and Equity Committee met today. Natalie Ringsmith.
Yes, I've been in this room since 8:30 in the morning. No, just kidding. They let me go home for a while. We had the wonderful Lacey Locken tell us what she was going to tell us today. And then as well, Shannon Abinson came and talked with us about keeping those alternatives to out-of-school suspension going in our district. She reviewed some of the things that they're doing, and then also talked about how next steps are to implement restorative practices district-wide so that the practice is normalized in our schools. So we are using that in some instances, but what she was interestingly saying is that when it's used, first it has to be taught, And so that's a big kind of teaching moment, and then you actually get to the restorative practice. But we're hoping, she's hoping as a district that we can have that be a normative restorative practice circles in our district so that when that is needed, that can be pulled together quickly. And then Dr. Putnam and I are working on meeting topics for the rest of 2022, and our next meeting is in March.
Thank you. And then Board Finance and Audit Committee, Al Dahlgren.
Yeah, Finance Committee met on February 10th, and unfortunately, due to a bout with food poisoning, I wasn't there. But the Finance Committee reviewed business service policies 703, 704, 714, 721, and 740. And the discussions around those, as I said, I wasn't a part of, so I didn't really get to hear. I know we're pulling one of those back to a future Finance Committee meeting, and the others are moving on to the Board Development Committee to have a final look at before they come forward to the board. So.
Thank you. And I know Personnel Negotiations Committee met, which got us here today, but Dr. Green can report on that next time. Yep. Thank you. All right, last up on the agenda is future agenda items. Board Policy Development and Governance Committee will be reviewing requests and reports on recommendations. Our March work session topics will be math program review, equity service updates, achievement and integration plan, annual staffing timeline, school updates, policy readings. Last future agenda items, we had several requests. Were there any since then? I can tell you about that later. Are we good on, can I close the meeting? Okay. Monica?
No, what is what you said? That is the board?
We are, few that are suggested go to your committee for review, and then you have that discussion with your committee and come back to report on whether or not you're recommending and the reasons why.
So is that the agenda topic for next time? Is that what you just said? So are we going to discuss at this meeting that?
If somebody wanted to suggest one, we were going to throw it to your committee.
Okay, everybody's clear about that. It just sounds like this is the agenda. So you're not reading the agenda topics for this
I already
meeting?
did. March work session topics. Do you want me to read them again?
So in the one topic of that March 4th session topic is that we are going to send the agenda topics to my committee?
No, I apologize. March work session topics will include math program review, equity services update, achievement and integration plan, annual staffing timeline, school updates, and policy readings. Now, if any board member would like to suggest any future agenda items that to be put on there, your committee will be suggesting them to your committee. You will discuss them at your committee meetings and report back to them whether or not your committee is recommending them to be added to agenda.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay. All right, meeting is adjourned. It is 9:26 p.m. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night.
Can you tell me what this is about? Who is Resource Training and Solutions? Okay.
You can go for all three. You can go for 3 people.
I have no clue. Yeah.